Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Charlie. On today's episode, I'm going to be showing y'all how to make my delicious pulled pork shrimp barbecue sandwiches. Now, it consists of pulled pork that has been cleaned, seasoned, marinated, seared on all sides, and we slow cook it overnight in its own juices. We also take those juices and make a delicious and flavorful barbecue sauce with it as well. It's topped with shrimp coleslaw and a toasted buttery brioche bun right on top. This recipe calls for you to make about 4 to 6 sandwiches, but you can adjust it to where you can serve more or less people. It's absolutely delicious. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, here's all what you're going to need to make your pulled pork sandwiches. Let's get started with our ingredients. You're going to need 3 to 4 pounds of boneless pork shoulder. This is Boston butt pork roast right here. And along with that, you're going to need some bacon fat. You can use olive oil if you don't have this. You also need a half a pound of small Louisiana shrimp that has been peeled, cleaned, and deveined. And here I have some coleslaw mix, which is a mixture of green cabbage and carrots. And along with that, you're going to need some tomato paste, vinegar, molasses, honey, mayonnaise, sweet relish, buttermilk, sugar, brown sugar, Worcestershire sauce, hickory liquid smoke, mesquite liquid smoke, and for your seasonings, you'll need 1 small yellow onion, some garlic, and for your additional seasonings, you'll need some salt, black pepper, Tony Saturated Creole seasoning. Now, if you don't have this, you can use the Zatarain's Creole seasoning or Slappy Mama Cajun seasoning. And along with that, you will need some Chef Paul Prudhomme's pork and veal magic, onion powder, garlic powder, and some mesquite seasoning. And lastly, you will need some hamburger buns. And of course, I made mine from scratch, but you can use yours out of the package. And for your tools, you will need a little small food processor and a slow cooker. And there we have it. All right, let's get straight to it. So I'm gonna go ahead and chop up a half of a yellow onion. I'm gonna just chop it up like that. All right, here I have 4 large cloves of garlic and I cut them in half. All right, let's get started with making our marinade. All right, so in the small food processor, we're gonna add our half a chopped yellow onion right on in there. That's about 4 ounces in weight total. And to that, I'm gonna add my 4 cloves of garlic right on in there. It's about 1 ounce in weight. 1 tablespoon of the hickory liquid smoke. 1 tablespoon of the mesquite liquid smoke, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of Chef Paul's pork and veal magic, and 1 teaspoon of mesquite seasoning. Now you're going to blend this for about 1 minute or until the mixture is nice and pulverized. All right, that looks good. Okay, now I've added my beautiful pork roast into the strainer. Now I'm going to go ahead and rinse the pork roast off with cold water. All right, here I have my roast. I place it on an 11 by 17 inch baking pan. I'm gonna take a sharp knife and I'm just gonna poke holes into the roast. All right, now I'm gonna pour my onion and garlic marinade mixture into this disposable piping bag. And there we go. Now I fitted it with the Wilton number 2A tip. Don't worry if some of the liquid drips out of there. I just want the onion and garlic mixture. And from there, I'm gonna just take it and I'm just going to inject it into the roast. Now do this the best way you can. Don't try to rush it or anything like that. Alright, now I'm going to take my roast and I'm going to add it into this plastic bag here. Alright, here I have my pan juices and all that. I'm going to just add all that in there. Now I'm just going to massage the roast while it's in the bag. Just give it a little massage, make sure all the seasonings and everything is incorporated. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and place this into my refrigerator. For you, you can let this sit in your refrigerator for about 4 to 8 hours. For me, I'm gonna place it into my refrigerator for 24 hours. Preheat your fire to medium heat. All right, let's get started with our coleslaw mixture. So first we want to start by sauteing the shrimp. So in this large pan, I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of the pork fat. And just let that melt in there. All right, next I'm going to add a half a pound of our small Louisiana shrimp that has been peeled, cleaned, and deveined. And we're going to add a little bit of seasoning. We're just going to sprinkle about 1/8 of a teaspoon of Tony Saturated Creole seasoning and 1/8 of a teaspoon of Chef Paul's seafood magic. Now I'm gonna go ahead and just give this a quick stir. Now you're gonna let this saute for about 2 to 3 minutes. Alright, it's been about 2 to 3 minutes now and our shrimp is done. Now you're going to go ahead and turn your fire off. Now you're going to let this cool completely. Alright, let's assemble our coleslaw. So in this small bowl, I'm going to add 2 cups, that's about 5.5 ounces of the shredded coleslaw mix. 1 tablespoon of sweet relish. And remember our shrimp that we sauteed, that was a half a pound. Just going to add that in there. A half a cup of mayonnaise. 1 1/2 tablespoons of buttermilk. 2 teaspoons of vinegar. 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce. And for our seasonings, I'm going to sprinkle 1/8 of a teaspoon of Tony Chachere's Creole seasoning. 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder. 1/8 of a teaspoon of garlic powder. 1/4 teaspoon of mesquite seasoning. And to cut the acid, I'm going to add about 1 tablespoon of sugar. Now I'm going to go ahead and give this a quick stir. Make sure you stir it really good. And there we have it. Our coleslaw is ready. Now I'm going to go ahead and cover this. And I'm going to place this into my refrigerator until it's ready to be served. And you can make this a day ahead of time. Alright, here's my pork roast. I let it marinate for 24 hours. So I'm going to go ahead and remove it out of the bag. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and take my roast. Make sure you just drain most of the juices off. We're going to use some of that marinade juice for later. So set this on the side. I'm going to just add it onto this 11 by 17 inch baking pan right here. Alright, I melted about a tablespoon of bacon fat in this pan. I'm just going to add that on top of the roast. I'm going to just take my hands and I'm just going to rub that all around. There we go. Alright, now let's add some seasoning. Now we're going to lightly sprinkle some salt onto both sides of the roast. Some black pepper onto both sides of the roast. Some Tony Chachere's Creole seasoning onto both sides of the roast. Some Chef Paul Prudhomme's Pork and Veal Magic onto both sides of the roast. And some mesquite seasoning onto both sides of the roast. Preheat your fire to high heat. Alright, here we have our cast iron skillet. Now we're going to let this get hot for about 2 minutes or until the skillet starts smoking. Now I'm going to add the roast into the skillet. Now you're going to let this sear for about 3 to 4 minutes on each side. Now you're going to go ahead and turn your fire off. Alright, now we're going to carefully take our roast and we're going to add it into our base of our slow cooker. Preheat your fire to medium heat. And for our skillet, we're going to deglaze it. So we're going to add 4 cups of water. Alright, now I'm going to take my spatula and I'm just going to give this a quick stir. Now as we're stirring this, we're taking the spatula and we're kind of gently gliding it at the bottom of the skillet and glide it on the sides of the skillet as well. We want all those flavors to build. So that's what we're doing here, building on flavors. I'm going to let this come to a simmer. Alright, our mixture is at a simmer, so let's add some seasoning. I'm going to add about 1 teaspoon of salt, about 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, and 1 teaspoon of Tony Chachere's Creole seasoning. Now just go ahead and give this a quick stir. Most of the stuff that was on the bottom and the sides of the skillet should be completely dissolved into the liquid. This is basically your stock right here. Now you're going to go ahead and turn your fire off. Set your slow cooker to high. Alright, now we're going to pour our liquid mixture from our skillet into the slow cooker base. And remember our marinade mixture, our juice that we had left over from our marinade. I'm just going to pour the rest of that in there. I'm going to just stir that the best way I can. Now I'm going to go ahead and cover this. And I'm going to let this slow cook for 12 hours. Now I'm doing this like at 7 o'clock at night, so that way when I get up the next morning, the roast will be ready. Alright, it's been about 12 hours now. Let's go ahead and check on the roast. Oh yeah, that's nice and tender. And our roast is done. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn my slow cooker off. Alright, here I have 2 spatulas. And I'm going to just take my pork roast. I'm going to let it drain a little bit. And from there, I'm just going to add it into this Tupperware. Alright, here I have a fat separator. And I'm going to add a mesh strainer on top of that. And I'm going to pour the liquid mixture right on in there. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and pour the liquid mixture from the fat separator into this cup. I'm going to pour about 2 cups of the liquid right on in there, as we want a small amount. We're not going to use the whole thing. Now the rest of this, you could take this and freeze it. Make sure that when you freeze it, the fat on the top is going to harden, so you just take a little fork or something and just remove that fat and put that in a separate bowl. Alright, let's get started with our barbecue sauce mixture. So in this medium-sized glass bowl, I'm going to add 6 ounces in weight. That's about 3/4 cup of tomato paste, 2 tablespoons of vinegar, 1 tablespoon of hickory liquid smoke, 1 tablespoon of mesquite liquid smoke, 2 tablespoons of molasses, 2 tablespoons of honey, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1/4 teaspoon of Tony Chachere's Creole seasoning. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my whisk and I'm just going to carefully stir this. There we go. Preheat your fire to medium heat. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started with cooking our sauce mixture. So in this large saucepan, I'm going to add 2 cups of the pork-based mixture. Just going to pour that right on in there. Now here's some seasonings and some meat drippings. I'm going to just add that in there. That's from when we strained our pork stock mixture. Let me just take my whisk and give this a quick stir. Now I'm going to let this come to a simmer. Alright, our mixture is just starting to come up to a simmer. So I'm going to go ahead and add the barbecue sauce mixture right on in there. Now I'm going to take my whisk and I'm just going to stir this until combined. Now I'm going to go ahead and cover this. Now I'm going to let this simmer for about 15 minutes, stirring occasionally. Alright, here we have our pork roast. I placed it on this 11 by 17 inch baking pan. Now I'm going to go ahead and take some forks and I'm just going to shred the pork roast. And of course, if your roast has the bone in it, you want to make sure you remove the bone. Now the fat, if you have any type of excessive fat, you could just put that on the side if you don't like a lot of fat on there. Alright, it's been about 15 minutes now, and our pork barbecue sauce is done. As you can see, that has reduced down a little bit. It's going to be a little bit more concentrated in flavor than usual. Now you're going to go ahead and turn your fire off. Now you're going to let this cool for about 10 to 15 minutes. And as the mixture cools, the flavors will settle and increase. Alright, now that my barbecue sauce mixture has cooled. Alright, next I'm going to add 1 pound of the pulled pork mixture right on in there. Now it is normal that you're going to have more of the pulled pork meat left over. So you could take that and you could freeze it. I'm going to go ahead and give this a quick stir. And there we have it. Our pulled pork mixture is ready. Alright, so in a small glass bowl, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of softened salted butter. And I have about 2 tablespoons of the bacon fat. And I'm going to just add that in there. Now I'm going to just give this a quick stir. Just stir it until it comes together. And we're going to use this to add onto our hamburger bun. Preheat your fire to high heat. Alright, let's get started with toasting our hamburger buns. So in this cast iron skillet, I'm not going to add any oil and anything like that. I already have it seasoned and ready to go. I'm going to just let it get hot for about 2 minutes. Alright, I'm going to add my hamburger buns, the top and the bottom portion, right on in there. And I'm going to just hold that down like that. Or if not, you could just take a spatula and just press that down on there onto the skillet. Should take about 1 or 2 minutes for it to be nice and toasted. And there you go. Now you're going to go ahead and turn your fire off. Alright, here I have my butter and bacon fat mixture. I'm going to just take some of that and I'm going to brush it on top of each hamburger bun. And you want to do this while the hamburger bun is still warm. And you're going to do the same thing to the bottom section as well. All done. Alright, let's get started with assembling our sandwich. I'm going to add some of the pulled pork mixture right on top, followed by the shrimp coleslaw. And lastly, we're going to add our hamburger bun right on top. And from there, it is ready to be served. Here is the final presentation. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Pulled pork sandwiches with shrimp, made by a New Orleans native. If you like my channel, hit the subscribe button Hit the bell button if you want to be notified of my videos. I have an official website for all of my recipes, including for these delicious pulled pork sandwiches with shrimp. You can go to www.charliethecookandrews.com. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter under the name Charlie the Cook Andrews. Stay tuned as Charlie's Taste Test is coming up next. Can't wait. Now it's time to go ahead and take a bite. Oh my goodness, this sandwich bigger than me. Look at that. Woo! Y'all, this sandwich literally melts in your mouth. Has a wonderful barbecue flavor and all those seasonings, and we built on flavors, and that just added to the flavor of the barbecue sauce and the flavor of the pork roast and that shrimp and the coleslaw. Oh my goodness. I'm telling y'all, try the recipe. It's really good. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, have a good one. Peace.